spent several months this year backpacking for 3 months actually around Latin America. So I went to Central America, I dipped into there, and then I also went to South America. So I started in El Salvador, then Costa Rica, then Panama, then Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Chile. So 7 countries altogether, and I had the best time. There, I kept track of every penny that I spent, mainly for my own budgeting, but now I thought I would use that information to share with you because you might find it helpful in planning how much you're going to spend. I spent on average £58 a day for 3 months, bringing a grand total of £4,567, and that's a lot of money. So you know, you want to make sure you spend it wisely. You want to make sure that when you get there you have enough money and can plan things what you want to spend. Let's just get into it. Okay, so activities were my biggest expense. I spent £1,897 in total on activities, and this included things like hiking to Machu Picchu, hiking Colca Canyon, visiting historical sites, going on tours. I did a really cool tour actually in Cartagena and things like that. You know, they advertise these tours as free tours, but you tip at the end, and it's really worth your money. It's really valuable. So yeah, this across my whole trip, I spent £1,897. My next biggest expense was accommodation, and I spent £667 in total on accommodation for 3 months. I think that's really good. Actually, I'm wondering if that number is wrong. It potentially might be more than that. What my friends and I did, so we all have Monzo bank accounts, right? So instead of us all booking our separate individual bookings for things like accommodation, one person would book it for all of us, and then we just split the cost. There's a feature on Monzo where you can split the payment evenly. So although I try to keep track of everything, you know, it's a fast-paced lifestyle, I'm constantly traveling, I'm not always keeping up to date with my budget. So potentially it could have been more than this. However, hostels are very cheap, and you can save a lot of money with hostels compared to places like Airbnbs, or definitely compared to hotels. £667, I could spend that on a hotel in like a weekend if I went to Europe. So yeah, it is a significant saving. Okay, so my next biggest expense was restaurants, and I spent a grand total of £569 on restaurants. And yes, I did buy groceries and go shopping. However, there were a lot of times where that wasn't feasible. There's not always cooking facilities where I'm staying. Sometimes, like especially in Costa Rica, it was so expensive that it was cheaper to actually go to a restaurant. I think we went to the supermarket at one point and it was like £12 for cereal, something like that. And I think, well, you know, what's the point in buying food to cook at home, well, cook at the hostel, when I can just go out, someone can cook for me, I can try something new, something authentic from the menu. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of eating out for breakfast, lunch and dinner while I'm travelling. Why not? There wasn't that much street food, to be honest with you, when I was travelling in Latin America. In Southeast Asia, oh my gosh, the street food is my best friend. I do love a mystery meat skewer, although my friends are like, so what the hell are you eating? I'm like, it's chicken. They told me it's chicken. Doesn't taste like chicken. Yeah, that's because it's chicken liver. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent. The main kind of food I ate at restaurants was like menu del dia, which is menu of the day. And normally what that is like a soup as a starter, which I loved. Their soup is to die for. And then normally the mains is like rice and beans, maybe some meat on there. The bandeja paisa was one of my favorites. It's like avocado, beans, pork belly, rice. I'll show you a picture because I can't quite remember. Although I did get food poisoning from a bandeja paisa when I was in Medellin. Anyway, it's inevitable. It's bound to happen. Just take Imodium with you. My next biggest expense was transport. And this is not including flights or flights. When I say transport, I mean things like buses from one place to another. I mean boats from Panama mainland to the islands. I mean, yeah, just everyday regular transport. So on transport, I spent a total of £456. It could be worse. It's not that bad. I would recommend using the company BusBud. And this is not sponsored, by the way. I don't have any sponsors, actually. If you fancy sponsoring me, get in touch. Yeah, no, I just genuinely recommend BusBud. They give you good advice. It's all up to date. The information is there. It's clear. It's laid out. And then you just put in your origin, your destination, and it gives you all the details. So yeah, £456. Do you know what? The buses are actually quite pleasant. I must have a video somewhere. I'll put a video in. I'm just like spread out. I've got my curtains. I've got my footrest. I'm like, got my arm rest as well. I've got like a big comfy chair. And actually, maybe a reason why my accommodation was so low is because I booked a lot of overnight buses, meaning if I'm leaving somewhere at 10 p.m. and I arrive the next day at 5 a.m, I don't need to book accommodation for that night, which is great because then it just doubles up on sleeping and transport. These are the things you have to do when you're budget traveling, by the way. I was gonna say I'm not normally like a budgeter, but I am, and that's just me because I'm sensible with my money. I don't need fancy things, just need somewhere to rest my head. Right, what's next? Okay, so groceries. I spent £424 on groceries. And what was my figure for restaurants? £569. So a little bit less, but you know, you do save money when you cook for yourself. And sometimes it's more convenient, especially if you're trying to be healthy. I tried to be healthy a few times. Didn't quite work out. There was I made an Instagram reel of me eating an avocado on a bus and a tin of tuna. I didn't eat the tuna on the bus, by the way. I left the bus when we were on a stop, cracked open the tin like it was a beer and ate it. And the driver was looking at me like, who is this girl? But you know, people like, it's not healthy. A tin of tuna and an avocado is not healthy. Do you know what? If I had to choose between a tin of tuna and an avocado or another packet of Ritz crackers and Oreos for dinner, you know, you can think about it logically. Which one do you want to eat? I've had enough Ritz crackers. I don't want any more Oreos. Just give me the tin of tuna, for God's sake. Side note, there was this other hostel in Costa Rica. I think it was called like 512 Hostel or something. It was on the beach. Their kitchen facilities, probably the worst I have ever seen in a hostel. The pans were not even in the right shape. I don't know how that happened. The metal had been, I don't know, looked like someone had got a hammer and started whacking these pans and thought, how can I make this look like it's not a pan? The gas hobs had no gas, or apparently they did, but they just didn't work. I asked the receptionist, I was like, hey, can you help me light this gas, please? I said, it's not working. She's like, it does work. I'm like, well, I've tried them all and I can't get it to work. She's like, it works. I'm like, okay, well, can you at least come and help me? Because obviously I'm struggling here. I can't figure it out. Have you even got a lighter? Because the ignition couldn't get it to work. And she was so rude. Next up is my flights. I spent £156 on flights. To be honest with you, I think that was just one. We flew from Bogota, which is the capital of Colombia, to Peru, to Lima. That was the only flight we took during this trip. I actually can't remember it. That's what traveling does. It all merges into one. But yeah, buses and stuff like that were the cheapest option. So yeah, I think we only took one flight. £156, again, I guess it cost. Also as well, if you're backpacking, obviously you've got a backpack. When you book these flights, you need to pay additional for luggage, unless you pack really lightly, which you might not always do. So when you get the bus, they don't always wear, actually, sometimes they do. But yeah, anyway, let's move on. I spent £148 on shopping. And I can't actually remember what I bought. It must have been like souvenirs. I bought my mum a fridge magnet. It's downstairs. I also bought my dad a fridge magnet. Had to buy clothes. Oh my gosh. It's bloody cold out there. And I did not realise. So I bought with me one pair of leggings and also a pair of my cargo trousers. not jeans. Do not take jeans backpacking. That is my number one tip. If you take one thing from this video, do not take jeans backpacking, all right? I'm warning you. But yeah, shopping, it wasn't that much. Clothes, bargain of the century. I found in an op shop in Lima a North Face raincoat. I didn't have a raincoat for £6. It was a bit too big, but nevertheless, it kept me warm and dry. Okay, next up, alcohol. I spent £94 on alcohol in 3 months. I'm not that big of a drinker, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, I do love a night out, but I don't feel the need to drink alcohol. Yeah, go out, have 1 or 2 drinks, that's enough for me. And then by the time it gets to 9 o'clock, all I can taste is chips. And I think, let's get a kebab, let's go home, let's get a packet of crisps. It's me. I'm going to bed. Good night. I did, on a side note, I did go to Tomorrowland in Colombia. It's Tomorrowland's court, so it was the first one that was held there. I had just done a day trip to Guatapi where I climbed all those steps on that massive rock. And on that trip, I had bandeja paisa and my tummy wasn't good for the rest of that day. I think the day after I was recovering, and then the day after that, we had a festival in Colombia. So I didn't drink anything for the festival. I was on water, I didn't even eat anything. I put myself on a bland diet. Bread, rice, applesauce, toast. So yeah, that was cheap for me though, so it was great. And I didn't have a hangover. Next, right, general fees, £78. When I say general fees, I mean things like when you're crossing a land border, they're like, okay, you need to pay exit tax for Costa Rica. And then you cross the border and like, all right, well, you need to pay entry tax for Panama. And it's a little bit of a scam, but do you know what? That's just what happens when you're a tourist. You're gonna get these charges, and actually, I think they're optional. So yeah, just bear that in mind when you're traveling. You are going to encounter these fees, scams, whatever you want to call them. All right, now we have general, which is £45, and that's pretty much just my SIM cards actually. What else includes in general? No, I think that's just SIM cards. The thing is, when you go to a new country, one of your first instincts is to get a SIM card. If you're in the airport, it's tempting to get one from there, which you can do, because then at least that way, when you get out, you don't have to scurry around trying to find somewhere to buy a SIM card. However, it is generally more expensive. And what I have found, so again, this is not an ad, but I have a travel account with Revolut. It's an online bank and they do different currencies and stuff without fees. They also have an eSIM feature and you can choose it for not just countries but regions. So I chose, this was coming up to the end of my trip so it was already too late, but I chose a Latin America regional SIM card, which was great because when I went from Bolivia to Chile, all my friends I was traveling with, they were like, oh no, we need to find another SIM card, like another thing to do, another chore when you're traveling. But for me, I was like, oh, Google Maps is working fine. Why is that, I wonder? It's because I'm with Revolut. So it was really good, and I genuinely recommend looking at eSIMs. You also don't need to faff around, like searching for somewhere, you know, it's just genuinely from my heart, like I mean this, like it's so good. Look at eSIMs. There are other options as well, it's not just Revolut. There's plenty. Laundry. Apparently I only spent 20 quid on laundry, which is kind of questionable, seeing as I was traveling for 3 months. Nevertheless, apparently I spent 20 quid on laundry. Most of the time hostels can do it for you, and if they can't, then there's always a laundrette around. They're really good because they'll wash your clothes, you don't need to worry about it. Yeah, come back a couple of days later and it's all done. That's it. Easy peasy, Bob's your uncle. Don't need to worry about your laundry. Although I would say we had a couple of times where laundry did become an issue, and the reason why was because we had just got to Colombia, we're absolutely filthy, like we just spent 3 days on a boat trip living on islands without having any showers or anything. So as soon as we got to Colombia, we were like, right, let's do our laundry. However, because it took so long, yeah, we got to Capricorn and then we had to go to Cartagena, but we had to stay in Capricorn for an extra day because of our laundry. So just be mindful of when you do your laundry. All right, the last thing that I spent money on is coffee. I think I only spent £12 on coffee in 3 months. That's really good for me. I do love an oat cappuccino, but maybe that's the Westerner in me talking. Maybe that's the Brighton gal, the London gal, because I spent £4.50 on one a couple of days days ago, and I could easily do that every day. But when you budget traveling, you got to budget and you got to make these sacrifices. So £12 on coffee, easy peasy. Right, that is everything. That is everything I spent my money on in Latin America. So to wrap up, it was a grand total of £4,566, averaging £58 a day. Yes, £58 a day, £4,566 in 3 months. So I hope you have kind of got a better idea now on how much you could spend when traveling Latin America. Just as a reminder, so I went to El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and Chile. Actually, do you know what? I think this budget doesn't include El Salvador. I only started budgeting in Costa Rica, so I'm really sorry. 10 weeks, 6 countries, £4,566. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up there. I hope you found this video valuable. Hopefully you can take something away from it. You can have a bit better insights for your backpacking trip. If you have any questions, of course, you can leave a comment down below, or you can send me a message on Instagram. I'm always happy to help. That's why I create this content, is to help you. And yeah, go like, comment, subscribe, all of that jazz. I don't like saying that because it makes me cringe, but you know what to do, stay up to date, and yeah, well, have a good day and enjoy your trip. Also, if you fancy some behind the scenes content, if you fancy early access, then join my club, join my membership, and you can be part of my inner circle. And I'd really love to see you on the inside. All right, take care and see you later.